Hi everyone, it's Laura and I hope you're all doing well. So for those of y'all who are new to my channel, I'm a registered dietitian and I'm all about plant-based nutrition. So for those of y'all who are not new to my channel, welcome back. It's so good to see y'all. So I received some questions from a viewer, Kayleen. Hello, thank you for your questions. And they're all about dietetic internships and master's programs. So I thought I would make a video about it, answer them for everyone in case you have the same questions. So I'm gonna put the timestamps below to the specific questions and let's get started. What are your tips as far as making yourself stand out when applying for internships? So I have 3 tips. So the first one are grades and GRE. So this may be good news for some of y'all and bad news for some of y'all. So GPA is something that happens over the 4-year period, right? So if you mess up 1 or 2 semesters, then your GPA can be kaput. However, because a lot of the internships require a GRE score, this is an area that you can show your improvement. So if you did terribly your freshman year, so your GPA isn't that great, but you do a great GRE score, then that can insanely help you with your internship applications. And so I strongly encourage you, even if you have a good GPA, study for the GRE, be prepared, make a good score, make it a priority, and it will help you out. Tip number 2 is, which I've mentioned this in another video, but I'm just gonna reinforce it because I think it's really important, is to take the time to reach out to a dietitian near you and shadow her. This is an invaluable experience because it shows you, for a lot of you, your internships are gonna be in a hospital. And so if you could find a dietitian that works at a hospital and shadow her, the majority of dietitians, if you contact them and say, hey, can I shadow you for 2 hours for 4 weeks in a row or something like that, then no one's gonna care. Sure, come along, shadow me. Great. So strongly encourage you to do that because they can also be a reference for you when applying to internships, which is really important. My 3rd tip is to go to your advisor and say, this is my GPA, obviously, this is my resume. Where do you think I can get in? And listen to him or her because they know what they're talking about. The majority of didactic advisors or didactic directors, they have a good inkling as to where you can get in, what those places are looking for. You don't realize the connections that your advisors have until you utilize them. Meet with them, ask their opinion on where you can get in, and actually listen to them. Did you complete your internship and become registered before getting your master's? So I actually did a combined program. So I did a 21-month program that was the internship as well as my master's. So when I graduated, I had my master's degree in clinical nutrition, and then I was also able to sit for the RD exam. And this is what worked best for me because I knew if I went straight from undergrad into a combined program, then I was gonna complete it because I was still in that student mindset. But I knew once I got a real job and was practicing as a dietitian, I wasn't sure if I was gonna get my master's. And so this was my way of just going ahead and getting it done and knowing that it was done. Which, a side note for that, some jobs actually, they don't require a master's, but they say master's preferred, which basically means they required a master's. It depends on where you live. So in Alabama, the job I'm in now, they didn't require a master's. The job I had in Chicago did require a master's. So it's something else to think about. Depending on where you want to live, you may not have to get your master's. It may not make sense because master's degrees are expensive. But if you're gonna live in an area that is a metropolitan area, what I would recommend is go ahead and search for dietitian jobs and see the requirements. And if it says master's required or master's preferred, then you know that in that area, that's what they're looking for. What exactly did you study for your master's? So I studied clinical nutrition. So do you recommend getting your master's right after a bachelor's? So I've kind of already answered this, but for me, that's what worked best for me because I knew that if I didn't do it right after, I probably wasn't gonna do it. But again, not everyone needs a master's. Does it make you a better dietitian? I think so. But at the same time, there's things that I have friends who don't have their master's and they know just as much as I do. It just took them a longer period of time. So it might have taken them the first 3 years of being a dietitian or something like that. So basically the difference is starting in my first job, I was more advanced. I knew more than someone who didn't have their master's. But I know dietitians that don't have their master's, just have their bachelor's, and they don't need it. Again, I would recommend looking up jobs in the areas that you eventually want to work in, see if they require a master's, prefer a master's, and then go from there. I do know in 2024, they're going to require you to have your master's. However, if you don't already have your master's, you're kind of grandfathered into that. You don't have to get a master's. So it's just something to keep in mind. How much did my master's program cost? So my master's program was insanely expensive. I think total it ended up being $80,000, but don't get shocked by that number because I went to a private organization, a private hospital. I knew it was going to be insanely expensive. However, there are master's programs that are a lot less than that. So I know University of Alabama at Birmingham, UAB, it's a really it's considered a good hospital in the Southeast. And I think for the combined internship and master's, I think it's like $30,000 or something like that. But what I will do, I'm gonna leave a link below, and it's a website, it's eatright.org, but it's a certain part of the website, and you can go through and find the internships in your state, in a specific state, and it'll give you the estimate of how much it's gonna cost. So you can kind of figure it out that way. My internship, they did give us a stipend I don't know if it was every 2 weeks or every month, but they did like pay us. And so that's the money I used to kind of live on. But each internship is different. So again, leave a link below. And if there's a specific internship that you're interested in, then you can check out approximately how much it's gonna cost. Oh, there are internships that don't cost, but instead just give you a stipend and pay you. Those internships, of course, everyone wants. So they are extremely competitive, but if you're someone who your resume is amazing, you have an awesome GRE and GPA score, then I strongly encourage you to apply for those. Don't be scared that you're not gonna get in or be intimidated, just do it. Do employers ever pay for the graduate courses? So yes, they do, or they will pay for a portion. So at the place that I did my internship, and I worked there for a couple of years as well. So in order to get a job there, you had to have a master's. But once you were there, then they would pay to help you get your PhD. And so if you got your PhD at Rush, they paid 90% of it. If you got your PhD somewhere else, as long as you maintained a GPA, I don't remember the percentage that they paid for, but they paid for a lot of it. But that's for your PhD. In regards to master's degrees, I'm sure there's a similar setup, a similar situation. The job that I'm at, if I wanted to get my PhD, they wouldn't help me at all. Or the dietitians that work there, if they don't have their master's, they're not gonna help them. However, so we have interns from UAB, that hospital I was telling you about. So we have interns that rotate through. So if any of us that don't have our master's as preceptors, if we want to go back and get our master's through UAB, then it's like insanely discounted. So do employers pay for it? A lot of times they won't pay for all of it. They'll pay for a big chunk. Depends on the job. But then there's other situations, like I said, that we're preceptors. And so if my fellow dietitian wants to go back, then a chunk will be paid for. So yeah, were your graduate courses online? So mine were not. Mine were actually in the classroom. So how my program worked was we did rotations from like 7 or 8 in the morning until noon or 1 in the afternoon. And then after that, then we would have classes. So typically from like 1 until 5, we would be in the classroom. Did you work whilst completing your internship? And if so, how did you balance it? No, I did not. And honestly, there is no way that you could, unless I did have a friend for the first quarter, because we didn't have rotations the first quarter. She continued to wait tables on the weekends. I also had a friend, she wasn't in my internship class, but she was a couple years older, and she would bartend on the weekends. It's something that is extremely hard because you are jam-packed, especially if you do a combined program of your internship, your master's, and a thesis. I had a thesis as well. And so it is a lot to take on, but if you are motivated and dedicated, then you can do it. It's been done. If you're someone who you're just gonna do an internship, then to me, that's more reasonable to still be able to do something on the weekends. However, you won't be able to work Monday through Friday whatsoever. How much time did you have outside the internship? So not that much, but at the same time, I was in Chicago, and so I was extremely dedicated to soak up the city and to not just be studying and working on my thesis. I chose a thesis that didn't involve people interaction. So it wasn't something that I had to be at a clinic at a specific time, or one of my friends did a recycling thesis, so she had to be at the hospital at a certain time. My thesis was more flexible in that I could work on it at midnight, I could work on it at noon, I could work on it at 5 in the afternoon. As long as I got my work done, then my time wasn't required to be there at a certain time, which really helped me out and allowed me to have a much better work-life balance and enjoy the city more. I'm also extremely motivated to have a work-life balance. I don't like to bring my work home with me. So for instance, now, even though we have access to the computer system at home, I never log in, because I want that separation of work and my private life. I made a priority to have a work-life balance. Some people, their work-life balance was very like blurred. And so they had a little bit harder time with that, but I didn't, so. And one of my recommendations when starting your internship and master's or whatever you decide to do is to set specific time that you're not gonna work on anything. Because I had friends who, even when they were watching Game of Thrones on Sunday nights, they still had their laptop out, like halfway kind of working on something, to where they never really shut off from the internship. And for me, I think it's so much healthier just to close your laptop, say, okay, this block of time, I'm not gonna do anything for school. This is gonna be my time. And so you're able to have that better balance. So I hope these tips helped y'all out. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them below. Also, if you have any other questions, I love these Q&A type styles because I know that I'm answering questions that y'all want the answers to. So if you have any questions for me, I'd love to do another one of these videos. It doesn't have to be about nutrition, school, or dietetic internships. It can be about anything. Just let me know. Also, I'm available for meal planning and one-on-one counseling. I'll leave all the information below as well. And check out my book. It's all about plant-based nutrition. And I'll be seeing you on my next video. Bye. I'm a huge component of letting experiences and love and people enrich your life, and having things and items and materialism be at the wayside. And so as a result, it's caused me to reevaluate a lot of the items that I have had in my life and that I have in my life, and getting rid of the things that don't bring any value to me. So as a result, today I thought it would be fun to share with y'all some things that I no longer purchase since having this kind of realization. So if you're interested, then keep watching.